Rami's room costs $1,500,000.
He is one of 111 known cases in the world, and no two cases are alike, so we're just taking things day by day.
We lived in the hospital for 9 months. When I went in for my 20-week anatomy ultrasound, my son was hiding his chin with his hands, so we couldn't see what was going on. We went in 4 weeks later and he was still hiding his face, and now my amniotic fluid was up, so they knew something was wrong. We discovered that my son had micrognathia, which is basically a recessed jaw. He wasn't swallowing enough amniotic fluid. This could cause my body to go into labor. They did a bunch of tests and pumped me with a bunch of meds to help keep me pregnant because I was actively contracting. They decided that the best place for me to go would be Children's Hospital. If I delivered my son that night, there would be no chance of his survival if we weren't at Children's Hospital. They continued the process to keep me pregnant for another 10 weeks, and I delivered my son via C-section where he was trached while he was still attached to my placenta. We then spent another 5.5 months in the NICU and the step-down unit just fighting for his life and dreaming of a day like this where we get to take him out for a walk. You and I have 12 ribs on each side. He only has 7 on the left and 8 on the right.
Audrey and her son had to spend 9 months in hospital after he was diagnosed with a super rare condition.
I couldn't find the bill for my actual delivery, which was an exit to airway procedure. I could find the bill for his entire hospital stay. Rami's room, it costs $1,500,000. Pharmacy cost $15,000. Surgical supplies and devices, probably his trach and his G-tube, $40,000. Lab work is $42,000. Radiology, $6,000. There's a few other radiology charges. CT scan, $7,000. Waiting room services, $44,000. Anesthesia, $7,000. Respiratory services, which obviously he has a lot because he was trach vent dependent, $400,000. All the different types of therapy around $30,000. His MRI was $4,000. So the total for this bill is $2,124,884.99. Insurance covered $2,059,761.72, and we are still pending $65,123.27. Luckily, where we work, our primary insurance and our secondary insurance, we ended up not paying anything except for our deductible, which is around $3,000. So yeah, feeling pretty lucky about the insurance situation we have.
If it wasn't for the insurance, there's no way they could have afforded the bill. But what is Rami's condition and how does it affect him?
I was diagnosed with a very rare syndrome called cerebrocostomandibular syndrome. Cerebro is the brain, costo is the ribs, mandibular is the jaw. He's one of 110 known cases since the 70s. Rami's case, he was born with his jaw was pushed back, basically blocked his airway completely, so he actually wouldn't even be able to get an intubation tube in his trachea. So that's why they trached him. Where the cerebro part of it came in is that so many kids that were born with this syndrome lost oxygen at birth because they weren't able to breathe and they never knew ahead of time. So then it would cause brain issues. And then the costo part of the syndrome, you and I have 12 ribs, 12 on each side. He only has 7 on the left and 8 on the right. And even with that being said, like, let's say these are your ribs, some of his are like spaced differently, some are really close together, some aren't completely, like if you take your ribs going from your spine to your sternum, they are not completely formed, so there'll be like big gaps in his bone. This is why we're still on the ventilator, because the idea is if we can fully inflate his lungs, then his ribs and his musculature will form around his lungs, his fully inflated lungs, thus preventing restrictive lung disease later in life. I hope that explains a little bit about what's going on with my son.
We are so glad that Audrey and baby Rami are doing well. In the comments, people had nothing but words of support, with one person saying, "Trached while he was still attached to my placenta made me tear up. I love how you fought and advocated for him. My twins just got out of the NICU after 11 days. I can't imagine." While others shared their experiences saying, "Mama, you've got this. My son was also diagnosed with micrognathia, but not until after birth. Never heard of anyone else with this diagnosis. Sending love and strength." As always, thanks for watching Happiest. If you liked this video, then be sure to follow our other social pages for more. And if you have any videos of your own you'd like to share, be sure to send them in.